Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. I am on the road in Puebla, Mexico, about 100 miles south of Mexico City, for the Lara Cannabis Cup and exhibition. I'm going to be giving a PowerPoint presentation about the evolution of cannabis, the first 25,000 years. But today we have the organizer of the Lara Cannabis Cup and his translator. The organizer is Jose Luis Casique, and the translator is Eric Estrada. And so we'll welcome them to the show in a few more minutes. First, we'll have our hip news segment, and as always, we'll bring on our infamous dancing cannabis leaves.
I feel the force.
Welcome to the hip news segment of our show. We're going to start in New Jersey. Select retailers began selling marijuana and cannabis-infused products yesterday on Thursday the 21st to those ages 21 and older. Late last week, state regulators gave approval for several existing medical cannabis retailers to begin also providing cannabis to the adult use market. New Jersey's Democratic Governor Phil Murphy said, quote, "I want our legal adult use cannabis industry to be a national model, and I think we are there," end quote. Currently, 8 companies operate fewer than 24 retailers in the state. New Jersey voters decided in favor of a referendum legalizing marijuana possession and retail sales in November of 2020. However, lawmakers still had to pass additional legislation implementing the law in 2021. In recent weeks, regulators have issued conditional licenses to 102 cannabis cultivators and manufacturers. Additionally, state regulators have received more than 320 applications from startup businesses seeking to open adult-use cannabis retail shops. But businesses seeking to open adult-use cannabis retail decisions about those applications are not expected for at least another month, according to media reports, and it's likely to be a year or more before those stores will be operational. In the interim, prices for retail cannabis products are expected to remain high and supply may be limited. A robust above-ground retail marijuana market is necessary in order to disrupt the unregulated marketplace and to assure that consumers have adequate access to lab-tested, high-quality products at competitive prices. Such a mature market is not going to evolve overnight or even within the first few months. Nonetheless, the experiences of other statewide markets show that prices fall as retail access increases, and that over time, prices for lab-tested products in the legal market settle at price points that are more competitive than those in the unregulated marketplace. Lawmakers in nearby states, New York and Connecticut, passed similar legislation last year legalizing marijuana possession and retail sales. However, licensed retailers in those states are not anticipated to be up and running for several more months. Well, for millions of Americans, earlier this week, Wednesday, April 20th, was a day for celebration, and we certainly have a lot to celebrate. In just the past few weeks, we achieved several important victories in the battle for cannabis freedom. Members of the U.S. House of Representatives, for only the second time in history, have advanced legislation repealing the federal prohibition of marijuana. And at the state level, New Mexico retailers began engaging in adult use marijuana sales on April 1st, and as we just read, New York regulators just announced the adult use sales would began in the Garden State on April 21st. In 2020, police made over 350 marijuana-related arrests. The year before, police made over 500,000 arrests. In short, while this 2020, 420, many of you are embracing cannabis freedom, probably over 1,000 others were arrested and handcuffed, victims of geography, systemic racism, and failed archaic public policies. We have to begun winning some battles now for cannabis liberation, but there's more work to be done to achieve global cannabis freedom and to restore hemp for food, fiber, fuel, building materials, fabric, oil, and medicine. Please work for global cannabis freedom. We can, we have, and we will. From Washington, D.C., tax revenues derived from the licensed retail sale of state legal adult use cannabis products grew by more than 30% between 20 and 21, totaling over $3.7 billion, according to an analysis provided by the Marijuana Policy Project. MPP's figures do not include revenue derived from the state of medical cannabis products or the collection of state-imposed regulatory fees. The data provides further evidence that ending cannabis prohibition offers tremendous financial benefits for state governments. Adult use cannabis generated the greatest amount of revenue in California with $1.3 billion, about 3 times what the alcohol industry produced. And the same was true in Washington, Illinois, and Colorado. Since 2014, retail sales of adult use cannabis has generated over $11.2 billion in tax revenue for state governments. Our next story is from Ithaca, New York. The enactment of adult use marijuana legalization laws is associated with reduced demand for certain prescription drugs, according to data published in the journal Health Economics. A pair of researchers affiliated with Cornell University and Indiana University assessed trends in Medicaid prescriptions in all 50 states during the years 2011 to 2019. They identified, quote, a significant reduction in the volume of prescriptions within the drug classes that align with medical indications for pain, depression, anxiety, sleep, psychosis, and seizures, end quote. In those states that enacted legalization versus those that did not, the study's lead author concluded, quote, the results have important implication. The reductions in drug utilization that we find could lead to significant cost savings for state Medicaid programs. The results also indicate an opportunity to reduce the harm that comes from the dangerous side effects associated with many prescription drugs. Prior ecological studies have similarly identified an association between the adoption of medical cannabis access laws and reduced Medicaid prescription drug spending. The authors of this study concluded, quote, our results suggest substitution away from prescription drugs and potential cost savings for state Medicaid programs. This study adds to a growing body of literature surrounding the effects of recreational cannabis laws on pharmaceutical utilization. That's the end quote. Full text of this study, recreational cannabis legalizations associated with prescription drug utilization reduction among Medicaid enrollees, appears in this month's edition of Health Economics. That is the end of our hemp news segment tonight. We have a great interview coming up with Jose Luis Casique and his interpreter Eric Estrada. And I want to remind our viewers out there that we have access to medical marijuana doctors all over the country, not just here in the Northwest. But if you are a loved one or looking for help finding a doctor, then give us a call. You can call us at 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. If you have any other questions about medical marijuana, hemp industrial use, then call us. 503-235-4606. So again, we have Jose Luis Casique and Eric Estrada here in Puebla, Mexico. So stay tuned for that and continue. Please help us restore hemp and for global cannabis freedom. Thank you and good night.
So I'd like to welcome a couple of my friends and our guests today down in Puebla, Mexico. And we have Jose Luis Casique and Eric Estrada. And they are working on a event that I'm going to. In fact, when this show is playing, we'll be preparing for the public part of the event. The Copa Lara Cannabis Cup is what we call it in English, the Lara Cannabis Cup. Uh, what is the name in Spanish?
¿Qué quiere decir el nombre de la copa en español, José Luis?
Ok, el nombre de la copa en español es el lugar, el nombre del lugar, que en este caso se va a realizar en Rafael Lara Grajales, Puebla, estado de México, un estado de aquí del país que es México, y eso quiere decir, Lara es el lugar, Lara, cannabis, que combina bien, pues, y cup porque es una copa.
He says that the name is actually from the town that it's going to be in. So it's centered in the state of Puebla, and the town that it's in, it's called Rafael Lara Grajales. So Lara, that's why it's called Lara Cannabis Cup, because it's in that town of Lara.
I see. And Lara, is that like a suburb of Puebla, or how far is it from Puebla? I know that I am flying in to Puebla on Monday night. And so it's how far is it from Puebla?
Dice que Lara es un suburbio, es una comunidad, es un pueblo, una ciudad, y qué tan distante queda de la capital de Puebla, Puebla.
Grajales es una ciudad industrial que queda aproximadamente entre 40 una hora, dependiendo del tipo de transporte de la capital poblana.
Ah, ¿cuánto, perdón? ¿Una hora?
A una hora.
He says that Lara is a city. It's more of a workman city. They have a lot of plants there. They have a lot of factories there, and that it's about an hour away from the capital, which is Puebla, which is where you're going to be flying into.
So tell me how you came. This is the first cup, right?
Esa es la primera copa en Lara, ¿verdad?
Es correcto.
And so how did you come to start the tell us more about the cup. Kind of give us a little advertisement for your event.
Cuéntanos un poquito más de la copa. ¿Cómo llegaste a caer en la realización de que querías organizar una copa canábica? ¿Cómo se llegó a fructificar todo este sueño?
Ok, todo comenzó desde que en el país pues ya se han estado realizando este tipo de eventos y en mi estado pues todavía no se realizaba y teníamos la intención también de que se realizara ya que hay personas aquí autocultivando y también queríamos esa parte de poder tener pues la copa para reconocer a los cultivadores que lo han estado haciendo en el estado de Puebla.
He says that he fell in love with the cups. There's various cups, you know, all around Mexico, and he just wanted to start something in his own state, which hasn't been touched by like cannabis activism really, except for a couple of people. No real cups organized. So he wanted to be the first one to take everything that's happening in Mexico and concentrate it down in Puebla so it can make its way down to Puebla.
So Puebla is about 170 kilometers from Mexico City, or about 100 US miles here. So is Puebla, the state of Puebla, is that a cannabis producing region?
Dice que si en Puebla hay hay mucha cosecha de cannabis, están cultivando mucha cannabis en cuestiones no nada más de autocultivo, sino en cuestiones generales en las sierras.
Sí hay cultivos en el estado de Puebla, pero ahorita estamos más enfocados en el autocultivo, que es en pequeñas cantidades por los diferentes usuarios de la planta. Entonces, sí hay en las sierras, pero ahorita en la zona en la que estamos es más autocultivo, pocas plantas de jardín.
So he says that, yeah, in Puebla, you know, in the mountains, there's a couple of grows, there's various grows, but the real intention of the cup is to get the people that are growing locally in their own houses, you know, trying to harvest for themselves and trying to get them to get the knowledge so they can participate and you know, keep learning. But yeah, he says that Puebla is a state where they do harvest cannabis, but there's more people right now more in touch with, you know, trying to do it at home.
I see. So let's talk about how we met. We met at the Copa. You want to talk about that, Eric?
Sure. Me preguntó que hablar un poquito de cómo nos conocimos. We met at the Jalisco Cannabis Cup back in 2019, right? It was a pretty nice event. At that cup, both you and I got to be judges. and Jose Luis participated as a judge as well. So we got to all, you know, it was really cool. We got to meet each other. It was in the state of Guadalajara. I think the first Cannabis Cup was in Mazamitla, Jalisco, if I'm not mistaken. Was it? Yeah.
That's the first one I went to. I think there might have been one before, but that was the first one I went to.
Yeah, and that's
town.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it was in Mazamitla. I remember because I remember we went to eat at the restaurant. The first day you got there, we went to a nice restaurant, you know, and then we started judging. We had a couple of days to judge, so that's where we all met. That's how it got started.
Yeah, I know Mazamitla is one of the Pueblos
Mágicos.
Huh?
Yeah, it's a pueblo mágico.
Yeah, so it's how many of those are there? These are towns that have great historic value and historic architecture, and they're preserving the architecture in a district. How many of those are there in Mexico? Do you know?
¿Sabes cuántos pueblos mágicos hay en México, José Luis?
No exactamente el dato, no, pero me parece que hay una lista de 100 pueblos mágicos en todo, reconocidos en todo México. Me parece que los van cambiando de acuerdo a su estructura.
Oh, we don't have like a specific number, but I think it's around 100, 140 like pueblos mágicos.
So there's quite a few of them.
Yeah, there's quite a few. There's a couple in every state. And that's decided by the government, you know, depending on the culture that each town has and the significance that it has to Mexican history. It's designated that, like, you know, it's like a medallion. It's like recognition that it's a pueblo mágico because it's important to us.
I see. Tell us about the state of marijuana reform in Mexico. My understanding is that about 3 years or so ago, the Supreme Court ordered the legislature to legalize cannabis. And they gave them a date that the Supreme Court gave a date that they've extended several times. But then last October, my understanding is in October of 2021, the Supreme Court said, okay, it's legal. The two houses never came to agreement on a law. I think one was passed by the House of Deputies, another passed by the Senate. They never could get together on the actual rules, and activists weren't happy with some of those laws as well. But the Supreme Court in October, or maybe September, said personal possession laws are gone. And is that your understanding?
Dice que si sabes acerca de, por ejemplo, la reforma en México, cómo está la cuestión, cómo sabes si estamos permitidos en cuestiones de portación, en cuestiones de cómo va todo. ¿Cuál es tu entendimiento acerca de la situación, José Luis?
Ok, de acuerdo a la regulación en México, solamente hay reglamento y está permitido para el uso medicinal, y ahorita en este momento están en la legislación del uso recreativo. Hasta el momento en la parte recreativa pues solo podemos portar 5 gramos, y ahorita se está reformando. Para el 25 de abril se va a dar a conocer los resultados de este proceso legislativo de este 2022. Entonces, no sabemos ahorita de manera recreativa cómo vaya a quedar definido la cantidad de portación, pero lo que sabemos es que en la Ley General de Salud sí está permitido cargar con 5 gramos.
So it's what he knows is basically what I know, what everybody else knows. It's still illegal. It's federally illegal. It's not like in the United States where it depends on the state, but it's still federally illegal. Here it's illegal all over. The only possession that we have, or that, you know, we can only carry 5 grams, which has been implemented. It was implemented in 2015 in a health law. You can only carry 5 grams. Anything over 5 grams is considered a misdemeanor. So you could be charged with even trying to sell small quantities of cannabis. You know, right now it's stagnant. It's come to a halt. There hasn't been really anything of advancement. We're waiting for April 25th to see if the Senate can, you know, actually say anything about what they've been discussing with the deputies in terms of cannabis law. But right now it's completely stagnant. We're aspiring to be able to carry up to an ounce, up to legally up an ounce legally up to 200 grams considered a misdemeanor. Anything up over 200 grams is considered trafficking. So we're trying to see how that can be regulated into what's recreational. Like you said, in 2017, CBD, you know, medical cannabis is completely legal, but to have access to CBD, to have access to medical cannabis is really, really hard. So we're basically at a halt. We're at a stalemate, and we're trying to see where it goes from there.
I see. So I see Jose Luis has a joint, I take it. That's a Smiley joint. Ask him about his friend there.
Dice que nos presentes a tu amiguito que tienes ahí.
Ok, él es Fumín y es el mejor amigo canábico que todo usuario debe de tener, porque es un amigo que le puedes contar tus problemas y no te va a criticar y siempre va a tener un tiempo para escucharte. Y si tienes frío o tienes miedo, solamente abraza a tu Fumín.
He says that's Fumin. That's his joint buddy. That's every stoner's best friend. You know, Fumin isn't going to judge you. You could talk to Fumin. You could tell him anything. And, you know, he's great to cuddle with. So that's his buddy. That's Fumin.
Okay, Fumin. So there are other speakers at the Lara Copa. So not only are we going to judge the cannabis over about a week during the 420 in a private setting, but then there's a public event. And I'm thinking at 420 on Saturday, I think. And tell us about the other speakers. I know my friend Stephen Clark is going to be there. Tell me about the other.
El señor Paul está diciendo que no obstante el trabajo que van a estar haciendo como de juez, juzgando todas las variedades de muestras en un entorno pues seguro y privado, pero que el día sábado se va a abrir el evento al público y que él va a estar dando una conferencia, que si le puedes platicar un poquito más acerca de las otras personas que van a estar ofreciendo alguna conferencia, alguna plática, que su amigo Stephen Clark va a estar ahí, entonces que si puedes platicar un poquito más acerca de eso, del itinerario de pláticas y de eventos que van a haber durante la Copa.
Sí, pues son 2 días de evento. El día sábado vamos a empezar con el acceso desde las 9 de la mañana y a las 10 vamos a tener una rueda de prensa con periodismo alternativo y vamos a tener un taller de acuaponia. Vamos a también a dar van a dar una plática de introducción a la comida canábica por parte de los ganadores de Iron Chef Cannabis.
A ver, he says that the event is going to be 2 days. In the first day, doors open at 9 a.m., 10 p.m. 9 a.m., 10 a.m. There's going to be a media scrum where it's alternative media, media based on cannabis. We're going to open up with an aquaponics seminar, which is going to be really good.
That's what we are, media based on cannabis.
Ese mismo día, el sábado.
Not the very first, but we're the longest in existence. We've been doing this show since 1996. And so I think this episode will be 1119.
Wow.
You tell them that.
Dice que es justo lo que ellos son, ¿no? Este es un medio alternativo, es un medio canábico y que tal vez no sea el primer medio canábico, pero es un medio canábico que tiene desde 1999 y que este posiblemente sea el episodio 1190. Entonces, qué chido que pueda estar participando también el señor Paul, un activista muy grande en la Copa. It's great to have an activist, as big as you, trying to support cannabis communities and cannabis laws and cannabis education here in Mexico. So we're really grateful for that.
I'm very happy to do it. And so I'm glad we could work it out. Tell him that.
Dice que está muy feliz de participar en la Copa, que está muy feliz de poder haber podido participar y colaborar contigo.
Le agradezco la participación y también el apoyo que ha brindado Paul y sus compañeros también, su esposa, y esa parte tan bondadosa de venir a apoyar a la Copa Lara Cannabis.
He says thank you to you, your wife, and all your team.
last week's show here on Cannabis Common Sense, our guest was Jorge Cervantes. As we are doing this, that will come out tomorrow night because we're recording this on Thursday, the 14th. So that will be our show 1118. And then this will be show 1119.
Dice que el episodio pasado tuvo a Jorge Cervantes en Cannabis Common Sense y que pues esta semana nos tiene a nosotros. Entonces, la semana pasada creo que el episodio sale mañana y pues este sale la siguiente semana. Entonces, el capítulo 1118 es con Jorge Cervantes y el 1119 va a ser con nosotros, contigo acerca de la copa.
Perfecto. Jorge, a friend of mine, I've known him since 1984.
Dice que conoce a Jorge Cervantes desde el 84.
We have a number of our garden pictures in his books. He's got it from a lot of different gardens, but he's made photos for his books, and I've given him photos that he has used in his books.
Dice que algunas de las fotos que salen en los libros del gran Jorge Cervantes han sido de algunos jardincitos que han trabajado con el señor Paul y que el señor Paul mismo le ha mandado fotos de sus plantas para que sean utilizadas en los libros que hace el señor Jorge.
He's been on the show many times.
Que ha estado muchas veces en el programa.
¿Me podrás prestar el libro de que está en el de Jorge Cervantes?
The categories and how the judging will take place.
Dice que hablemos de las categorías, de cómo se va a juecear, qué aspectos se van a tomar en cuenta, cuáles son las categorías de la Copa Lara, José Luis.
Okay.
There he is. That's the Jorge Cervantes book.
Oh, all right. That's indoor marijuana indica. All right. Ask him if he has the Cannabis Encyclopedia.
Que si tienes la enciclopedia del cannabis.
No, tengo la de cultivo de guerrilla y cultivo en interior nada más. Esas dos. Me falta la enciclopedia.
He says he has guerrilla and he has indoor, but he doesn't have the encyclopedia. Okay.
All right. I'm in the index of that one. And they got it on page 100 in English. I don't know about the Spanish version, but in English, I know it's page 100.
Dice que el señor está en ese libro, en la enciclopedia. Puedes encontrar el nombre del señor Paul en la fotita.
So tell me about the categories and how the judging will take place. How will that happen?
Cuéntanos de las categorías que tienes de la copa, cómo se va a llevar a cabo el jueceo. Cuéntanos un poquito más.
Ok, con respecto a las categorías, pues es flor exterior, flor interior y flor de invernadero en flores. En los destilados, en los extractos va a ser con solventes, sin solventes y va a haber comestibles también.
So he says that flower is divided into 3 categories, which is indoor, outdoor, and greenhouse. And that there's going to be another category for solventless and solvent-based extractions, as well as edibles.
Okay. And so how many days do we have to judge all those? I know in past cups, the edible category in particular can be pretty dangerous for some.
Dice que cuánto tiempo van a tener los jueces para poder juecear todas esas muestras, porque sabemos que en copas pasadas la categoría de comestibles es la categoría un poco más difícil de atravesar para algunos de los jueces. Entonces, ¿cómo van a tener ese tiempo? ¿Qué tiempo van a tener para juecear, José Luis?
Pues vamos a tener 6 días para estar catando las muestras, todas las muestras. Tanto el día del evento 23 y 24 todavía vamos a estar catando algunas muestras, pero ya de flores y extractos. Los primeros días van a ser los días para catar las muestras comestibles, que sería el 19, 20 y 21 en esos 3 días.
So he says that, it's pretty spaced out. You're going to have 6 days to judge. So every judge is going to have 6 days to get all of the samples in. They're going to start with edibles. So they're going to start with the hardest part of the obstacle course first. And then you're going to move on to flowers and extracts. So it's going to be a little bit, I think it's a good way to start judging. You start off with with the hardest thing on the menu and then just ease out into the extracts and flowers.
Yeah, I've seen with edibles, when you're judging many of them, that you can take too much. Now, I know my wife took a little too much at the last one in Guadalajara, but the first one I might eat half, and then after that it's just a little nibble, to get the taste and the flavor and everything. But it takes almost half a day to really judge an edible properly, because it takes about an hour for it to come into effect, and then the experience lasts longer. And if you're eating more and more, you'll get higher and higher. Perhaps I have not been too high. Well, maybe I have, but it's never made me throw up. Let me put it that way. But I know some people, it will make them, nauseous.
Dice que en copas pasadas ha estado muy pesado el tema de los comestibles, que es muy difícil juecear un comestible porque para juecearlo adecuadamente tienes que tomarte un poquito más como de medio día con cada comestible, porque en lo que tarda en pegar el efecto, una horita, y ya después vas acumulando un poquito más. Dice el señor Paul que la copa pasada en Jalisco empezó dándose la mitad del primer comestible y que ya después eran nada más probaditas porque no quería que se siguiera acumulando ese efecto que potencialmente lo podía dejar en la paleta, ¿no?
Claro. Aquí hemos observado esa parte y vamos a tratar de dividirlo en más días para tratar de mejorar la calificación en las muestras comestibles, ya que sabemos que el efecto, pues entre más va pasando el tiempo, puede ser que sea más duradero, ¿no? Que te pegue más. Y obviamente el cargarlo más de comestible, pues obviamente hace que se acumule la duración del efecto, ¿no? Y que sea, pues, más difícil calificar. Estamos organizando también la parte de que los jueces van a poder probar todas las muestras, pero solamente algunos jueces se van a dedicar especialmente a la categoría de comestibles, otros jueces a la categoría de flores y otros jueces a la categoría de destilados.
So he says that, yeah, he's actually taking that into consideration. The fact that judging edibles can be really difficult because, just like you said, you start with a bite and then you have another one and it's accumulative. You're going to get higher and higher and higher as soon as it hits. And taking that into consideration, judging off the cups that he's been to in the past, that's why you're going to have so many days to judge the edibles so you can judge them properly. He also says that all of the judges are going to be able to taste all of the categories, and all of the people who submitted the entries. They're going to be able to taste all the entries, but there's going to be specific judges that are going to be taken into consideration when they're judging edibles. So there's going to be specific judges for edibles. There are going to be specific judges for flowers. There's going to be specific judges for extracts. So it's different judges for different categories, and you have a couple of them that are a little bit more versatile, and they can judge everything.
I see.
So it's more expertise based.
Makes sense to me. Tell me about the other judges. I know Grace. Can't remember her last name right off the bat. I know it starts with an E. She produces edibles that are very high quality. I know she's one of the judges. And Stephen Clark. Who else? Is Stephen going to be a judge, or is he just a presenter?
Dice que le cuentes un poquito más acerca de qué otros jueces van a estar en la terna, que sabe que Grace va a estar en la terna, que ella hace comestibles. Pregunta que si Stephen Clark va a estar en la terna o nada más va a estar participando con alguna plática, y que elabores un poquito más en la cuestión de quién más va a estar ahí acompañándolo a juecear.
Perfecto. Stephen Clark nada más va a estar en la plática. Por sus tiempos, él tiene una actividad previa a la copa, entonces no podría llegar a juecear las muestras, entonces él nada más va a estar en la charla, sí nos va a apoyar en esa cuestión también. ¿Qué otros jueces van a estar? Va a estar Grace, va a estar Desiree Pascale, su esposo Richard Edhouse, va a estar Teresa Stanford, la esposa de Paul, va a estar también Sayula Jack, Rita Tricoma, Karina Bailón, va a estar también Danny Grover, Mario Grain, va a estar Ted Ted Pacheco, va a estar Ashanti, otro juez que se llama Cés y un juez de aquí de Puebla que se llama Raymond.
So he says that Steven isn't going to be able to be a part of the judges because he has, external activities that kind of coincide with the judging days. So he's only going to be able to be there and help him out with the conferences that he's going to give.
I see.
But, there's going to be a lot of judges besides Grace.
I don't remember that list.
Okay, I hope I really don't remember.
Yeah, I recognized a number of those names. So tell us about how many vendors are there at the event? So there'll be a 2-day public event, and how many vendors do they have lined up?
Dice que pues sí, el evento va a ser 2 días, que nos cuentes un poquito más acerca de cuántos stands vas a tener, para que la gente pueda visitar esos stands 2 días que vaya a estar la copa abierto al público.
Ok, va a haber más de 10 stands en el evento. Va a haber stands de comida, de parafernalia, stands de orientación, consultoría canábica, va a haber de comestibles, productos alternativos, también artesanías, productos artesanales, como el fumín también es un producto artesanal, es 100% hecho por personas de ahí de la comunidad de Grajales, un taller de costura. Y eso es lo que va a haber en el evento. Aparte de las charlas, también va a haber música y área de camping. Va a ser en una hacienda.
So he says that there's going to be a lot of vendors, various different types of people going in and trying to offer different types of products. There's going to be obviously cannabis-based products, edibles, maybe some flowers. There's also going to be people selling food, food without weed. There's going to be water. There's going to be a lot of consultants there trying to offer advice for anybody who has any questions. And there's also going to be music. There's also going to be, fun and games. So there's going to be a lot of stuff for people to do those 2 days that it's open to the public.
All right. Do they have the awards at the end of the event?
¿Cuándo será la premiación, José Luis?
El día de la premiación va a ser 24 de abril, domingo, a las 5 de la tarde.
Sunday,
a las 5 de la tarde.
Sunday, April 24th, 5 p.m.
I see. So tell me more about Puebla. What really fascinates me about the state and the area is the huge Cholula pyramid, which is the largest monument from prehistoric times and the biggest pyramid. It's not the tallest, but it's the biggest by far.
Dice que nos cuentes un poquito más de Puebla, que él está fascinado con la pirámide de Cholula, que es una de las pirámides, si no es que la pirámide más grande encontrada de tiempos prehispánicos. Que nos cuentes un poquito más de la historia del estado.
Bueno, Puebla es considerada en tiempos virreinales como el segundo lugar o la segunda ciudad más importante de la Nueva España, después de la Ciudad de México. Aquí en Puebla, pues lo que abunda es la gastronomía y algo muy representativo de la vestimenta es el traje de china poblana junto con el charro que es de Jalisco, ¿no? También, aparte de las pirámides de Cholula, que reconocemos que es un lugar muy bonito, agradable y muy vistoso que nos da identidad cultural, también en Puebla, en el estado, está otro lugar que se llama Cantona, que es un lugar, una ciudad muy grande, igual prehispánica, que apenas está siendo descubierta, que llevan el 10% del descubrimiento y es un lugar inmenso, lleno también de misterios culturales prehispánicos.
So he says that Puebla is actually, is very important to Mexican culture. It's considered the second biggest city after the birth of the new Spain. So after Mexico City, it was Puebla. And he says that, Cholula is very rich in culture and diversity. There's a lot of indigenous groups also that live in Puebla. And there's another city that is distant from Cholula, but it's a city called Cantona, and it's barely been like dug up. It's barely been dug up like 10%. So they're investigating all of the artifacts that they're finding, and they're finding different builds and different, pyramids also. So it's a very culturally diverse and important city in terms of Mexican culture.
There's a huge volcano between you and Mexico City, between Puebla and Mexico City, that's active. I know sometimes it closes the airspace. How is I'm not going to try to pronounce the name right, but what's that called? It's
Popocatépetl.
Yeah, that. I'll learn it before I leave there, I'm sure. Popocatele.
Popocatépetl.
Okay. I'm gonna have to look at the name, but it's very active. I seen some fantastic photos of it erupting, and there at Cholula, it's this huge pyramid, and just like in the center of Mexico City, where they tore down the Aztec temples to build the central church, they tore down the pyramid there at Cholula to build a Catholic church on top, and it's actually on top of the pyramid, right?
Dice que en la ciudad de Cholula trataron de construir una iglesia encima de la pirámide. ¿Es correcto, José Luis?
Es correcto. Está construida una iglesia arriba de la pirámide.
He says, yeah, there was a church built on top of the pyramid. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So I've seen some fantastic pictures of the church and some of the pyramid with the volcano erupting in the background.
Dice que ha visto fotos impresionantes de justo la iglesia encima de la pirámide con el Popocatépetl de fondo, haciendo erupción.
Es impresionante la vista que se observa desde la pirámide de Cholula por los volcanes que se ven al frente, que es el Popocatépetl, y también el Iztaccíhuatl. Tiene una buena vista para admirar la diversidad del medio ambiente que hay ahí alrededor de Cholula.
So he says that at the top of the pyramid, at the church, there's amazing views of not only one volcano, not only the Popocatépetl, there's another volcano called the Iztaccíhuatl. So you could see both of the volcanoes from the top of the pyramid, and you could also see the diverse, microclimates that Puebla has and the different types of growing grounds that it displays.
Yeah, there's a question I ask our guest, and I'll ask you both here just to kind of have some continuity for past shows. How did each of you first experience cannabis? What led you into cannabis culture?
Dice que siempre le hace esta pregunta a los invitados que están en el programa, entonces no la va a hacer a nosotros. Vamos a empezar contigo, José Luis.
Claro.
¿Cómo fue tu primera experiencia con la cannabis? ¿Qué te llevó a esa primera experiencia con la cannabis?
Bueno, la primera experiencia que tuve con el cannabis fue, pues, comprobar realmente lo que muchas personas me advertían de la planta, ¿no? Porque, pues, aquí en el país, al tenerla de manera ilegal, pues, estaba estigmatizada y decían que era mala, que te volvía loco, que era lo peor, que eso te iba a dejar imposibilitado y vas a ser un tonto y no ibas a poder hacer las cosas, ¿no? Y que era muy peligroso, muy adictivo. Que era el cannabis el principio para las demás adicciones a diferentes drogas. Y cuando la probé, pues realmente no fue nada de lo que me habían dicho, no tuve miedo, no me pasó eso de que me sentía yo loco o tonto y que me daban ganas de probar otras sustancias. Al contrario, fue una experiencia en la que me relajó bastante, me dio a pensar cosas de mi situación en todos los ámbitos y me di cuenta de muchas cosas que estaban en desorden en mi mente y que pues me di cuenta también que había que enfocarme en algunas y poco a poco ir trabajando esos ámbitos para ir mejorando. Me di cuenta de errores que tenía y también me di cuenta y reconocí logros o habilidades que tenía yo buenas, positivas. Entonces, eso es lo que yo tuve en mi primera experiencia cuando consumí cannabis. Se me quitó ese tabú, esa mentira que me habían metido tantos años de que el cannabis era malo y empecé a ver las cosas desde otro punto de vista, siempre con la intención de mejorar, de hacer las cosas bien.
So he says that, the first time he tried cannabis was what urged him to try it was putting everything to the test. All of the things that he was talked about as a kid, that cannabis, drives you crazy, that it's a gateway drug, that you start off with cannabis and you end up doing all these other different types of drugs, and that you could go crazy or end up in a psychiatric hospital or something. So he wanted to put that to the test, and as soon as he tried it, he found out it was completely different. It wasn't a gateway drug. It wasn't urging him to try other substances or trying to change his behavior or his thinking capacity. Quite on the contrary, he sat down, he was in peace with his thoughts, he was in peace with himself, he accepted himself for who he was, good and bad, and it changed his perspective on his outlook on different things.
How old was he when he first started using cannabis, if you don't mind me asking? I first tried cannabis when I was 11. Babysitter's son came back from Vietnam, and that was the first person who turned me on, so to speak. That was a different age. We're talking about 1972, though.
Dice que a qué edad empezaste a consumir cannabis, que si no es indiscreción que te pregunte, y que para él su primera experiencia con la planta fue a los 11 años, ¿no? Cuando una persona que lo estaba cuidando consiguió unas florecitas de alguien que regresó de Vietnam, que obviamente estamos hablando de diferentes tiempos, pero esa fue su primera experiencia, ¿no? A los 11 años. ¿A qué edad fue la tuya, José Luis?
Mi experiencia, la primera vez que lo conocí fue a los 12 años, pero apenas si la probé y realmente no supe bien valorar el efecto, o sea, fue nada más la curiosidad, ¿no? Y ahí también me di cuenta que no había nada de malo en ella. Donde ya la empecé a usar de manera regular, que ya empecé a conocer más acerca de la planta a trasfondo, pues fue alrededor de los 18 años.
So he says that, he too was introduced to the plant at a very young age. He was introduced to the plant at the age of 12, but he said that he didn't really have, the mental maturity to see if it had an effect on him. He just tried it and, didn't try it again until he was 18. But since the time that he was 12, he found out that, I took a puff, nothing happened. I didn't go crazy. This isn't as bad as it seems. And when he was 18, he had a little bit more information, and that's when he started consuming it a little bit more regularly.
I see. And what about you, Eric? Do you want to talk about your experience? What brought you into cannabis culture? When did you first?
I first tried cannabis when I was 20, so I was a bit older.
Yeah.
I grew up in Chicago, and education in the States is DARE, drug abuse resistance education. So it's all propaganda. It's all this is your brain on drugs, and they brainwash you with that false propaganda that you grow up to think is true. So, I think I share that with Jose Luis. I think curiosity brought me to trying the cannabis plant. I always heard that it was bad, but then again, I look at MTV and it's my favorite rapper smoking weed and being successful. And I look at the news and it's a couple of movie stars smoking weed or businessmen, and you see Steve Jobs doing it. You see Michael Phelps doing it. So it was like, why not? No, why not try it? I tried it out when I was first time was 18, after trying to dig deep into investigation on what's this going to do to my body, how is it going to affect my brain, what am I going to feel, what's the worst thing that can happen, what's the best thing that can happen. Taking that into consideration, I tried it when I was 18, and then I started consuming regularly when I was around 22.
I see. So, well, thanks for sharing that. Now, for Jose Luis, what is the group Rola El Toque 420? Did I say that right? Probably not.
Dice que le cuentes un poquito más del rol del toque 420. ¿Qué es?
Rola el Toque 420 es una página que nació acompañada de un colaborador que es el Inge Canábico. A mí me conocen como el profe Canábico, entonces mi amigo pues es ingeniero y también es canábico, entonces decidimos hacer como que la página del profe y el Inge, y en un principio empezamos a trabajar temas acerca del autocultivo, acerca de la información en derechos del cannabis, de los usuarios, hasta el momento en México, temas acerca de la evolución de la investigación con respecto a la medicina y todo lo que tenga que ver con el cannabis, hasta el cannabis industrial, que es el que más nos interesa por el hecho de que pues Fumin es un producto de Rola el Toque 420 y queremos en un futuro que a lo mejor ya haya material de cáñamo, pues que este producto lo podamos hacer de ese material. Ahorita por cuestiones de que sale caro, no hay cáñamo en México, pues tenemos que utilizar materiales alternativos que en este caso pues son poliéster y otro material que pues, se puede sustituir por el cáñamo y que a nosotros nos gustaría que este producto estuviera hecho de cáñamo.
So he says, Rol el Toque 420 starts off, he's a professor, Jose Luis is a professor. He started off with a friend of his who's an engineer. So since he's a professor, he's el profe, and his friend is el Inge. They started the media outlet. They try to teach people, about cannabis, about its proper usage, dosification, how to grow, how to harvest properly, everything that has to do with cannabis laws, with cannabis in terms of industrial types of products too. That's why he has Fumin with him. Fumin is a product that he himself and other people came up with from Lara, which is the town he's from. So people from the community are helping design these products, and he's selling these products to give back to the community. And his main goal, the main objective, is making Fumin 100% hemp. Right now, it can't be 100% hemp because he doesn't have the access to the hemp. He can't get the materials. Pricing is really crazy, but the end goal is getting Fumin into hemp mode. And that's how Rol el Toque 420 was formed. It's just him and his friend, trying to educate everybody on all aspects of cannabis.
I see. So that's the sponsoring organization of the event.
Y ese es el patrocinador principal del evento, ¿verdad? Rol el Toque 420.
Efectivamente.
I did not know Jose Luis was a professor, or what is his regular profession or job?
Dice que no sabía que eres profesor, que si le puedes explicar qué es lo que haces, ¿a qué te dedicas, Jose Luis?
Soy docente frente a grupo y me dedico a enseñar a los alumnos de grado primaria en el estado de Puebla.
He's an elementary school teacher in Puebla.
Oh, it's a noble profession.
Una profesión muy noble.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we are almost out of time. Is there anything else you'd like to say to our audience?
Dice que ya casi nos quedamos sin tiempo, José Luis, pero que si hay algo más que quieras agregar para la audiencia del señor Paul, algo que quieras decir.
Pues queremos invitarlos y que son bienvenidos aquí. Los estamos esperando con mucho gusto y muchas ansias. Hemos estado planeando este momento para recibirlos de la mejor manera y que ellos puedan disfrutar de la estancia, del evento, de la convivencia y de todo lo que tenemos preparado.
Well, he's just appreciative for the time that you offered him on your podcast, and he just wants to invite the people to come out 23rd and 24th, Larga Jales, Puebla, the Cannabis Cup. Come by, get educated, get stoned, and have some fun.
All right. Thank you for having me. I look forward to seeing you again in person.
Dice que muchas gracias por invitarlo y que espera verte pronto en persona.
Perfecto, gracias.
Restore hemp.
Y que vamos a tratar de ayudar a que se produzca el cáñamo de manera apropiada. Restore hemp.
Perfecto, muchas gracias. También quiero agradecer a Desire Pascale y a la Fundación FHKC por el apoyo y la colaboración que ha tenido para que también Paul y este evento, que es la Copa Lara Cannabis, se pueda realizar.
He says he also wants to thank Desiree and her foundation for everything that they're doing to make this possible, to, you know, everything that they've helped out. So thank you to Desiree, her husband, and their foundation.
I also should thank Desiree and Richard and their foundation for human kindness and compassion. They are sponsoring our trip there. I'm actually going to travel down to San Diego and see them, and then walk across the border to Tijuana and fly from Tijuana to Puebla. So I'll spend a couple of days down there in San Diego on the way in. But on the way out, I fly pretty much. I walk across the border and go straight to the airport to fly home. But it's going to be a great trip. I'm really looking forward to it. And I've got to thank Richard, Desiree, and the Foundation for human kindness and compassion as well. So
yeah, I'm sorry.
Is there anything you want to say in closing, Eric?
Oh, no, I just, you know, thank you guys for helping everything, for helping us, for helping the cannabis community down here in Mexico. Mr. Paul, it's great having activists as active as you are internationally coming down to Mexico and giving us some of your knowledge. Having that knowledge rub off on us is huge, because we're basically, you know, in the Stone Age compared to the United States and how everything is going over there. So everything that you guys come down and give us, you have to be sure that we're going to take it and put it to good use, because we want Mexico to prosper in terms of cannabis, in terms of hemp, in terms of everything. This is what we do. This is what we love. And just thank Jose Luis for having me as a translator. And that's about it. And I'll see you guys in Puebla. I hope you guys have a great time, and I hope everybody comes out and supports Mexican activism and Mexican cannabis cups.
When this comes on next Friday, it will be right as we're wrapping up the judges and just preparing, so we can watch it together on YouTube or Facebook if we want, or you can share it too. Perfect. So right there. Okay, I look forward to it.
Perfect.
Adios.
Thank you. Muchas gracias, Jose Luis. Thank you, sir. And I hope you guys have a great day. Many blessings, and stay high.
También quisiera yo mandar un saludo para Guacamole Hemp, que es Edgar Pagua, quien va a estar coordinando a los jueces.
He says he wants to give a shout out to Guacamole Hemp, Edgar Pagua, who's going to be coordinating the judges. So big shout out to him too.
He did a great job doing that in Guadalajara. And,
yes, he did.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
See you guys later. Bye.
Well, and whatever's going on in this dimensional reality, we'll never outfight them. It's about outthinking them. It's about outthinking them. Just think about that, right? About outthinking them. Alternative energy, power, alternative energy, conscious live thought, the process of thinking, energy. We are the alternative energy that can make the change to happen. But we really have to understand what this means. We really have to get it and understand it, then we become that power.